Surprise! Selling your home can feel like a real roller coaster. Most sellers, you are not ready for the real cost, the time, and the constant showings. But don't worry, in the next few minutes, I'm going to prep you so you're not going to feel blindsided when the for sale sign hits your yard. Here's the thing, you don't want nasty surprises. You want faster decisions, smoother negotiations, and more money in your pocket when it is all done. That is why I'm laying it all out for you, and there is going to be no sugarcoating. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to expect and what to do next. First shocker, selling isn't free. I mean, you know this, you are going to be covering most of the cost. You have your listing agent's compensation, and if you choose to, you will have the buyer agent compensation too. Then you've got title costs, attorney fees, HOA estoppels, municipal fees, lien searches, recording fees, prorations, repairs, and don't forget moving cost. Before you sign anything with an agent, promise me this. Please get an itemized net sheet. It breaks down everything so you know your bottom line. This way you'll have no surprises. There's going to be no, wait, what is this fee? As you're sitting at the closing table, ready to sign your documents. You know what else shocks people? The actual cost to move. Get 2 or 3 estimates before you list your house and be realistic. I mean, are you going to be moving across the state or just across town? Because if you're moving across town, you might think, okay, you know what? I'm just going to pack it in my car. I don't have much. It's going to just be a few trips. I can hire a few buddies to come over with some cans of beer and I'm going to be all set. But if you're moving a good distance away, maybe even across state lines, now you might be talking very large moving vans or moving companies. These might require deposits that may or may not be refundable, and sometimes for those interstate moves, you're going to have to sign contracts. You've also got the packing costs, boxes, paper, bubble wrap. Then there's the storage costs if you decide you need to put your items in a pod or a storage unit. As you can see, the moving costs, it adds up really fast. Do the math early so you're not sitting at the closing table realizing you cannot afford the move that you planned. Then there's the getting ready part. Buyers notice everything in the first 3 seconds. Curb appeal, smell, color, and the light. So if you've watched any of my other videos and you know me, you know I'm always going to recommend pressure washing, painting, mow and trim the yard, maybe put some fresh mulch down, fix the little things in the house, and clean that house until it sparkles. Here's my pro tip for you. Have a contractor or handyman come by and give you an estimate. This will be for any of the little items that need to be taken care of as well as the big ones. So if you have to start negotiations in a contract, you're not going to be surprised. You'll be amazed how those little things add up really fast. Another thing that you don't expect is how long it actually takes before your home goes live. For my sellers, I always tell them to plan for 2 weeks because we have to make sure your house is ready. I want to do a final walkthrough of it. We also need to make sure that we get the photographer scheduled, and we need to make allowances if the weather is not going to be cooperating with us. We may need to change the date. I also like to have aerial photography and video of the house as well as a floor plan. And these things don't happen overnight, and the best photographers are booked. So I can't just call up my favorite photographer and say, hey, you got an opening tomorrow? They don't. They're usually booked a good week, week and a half in advance. Now, once we get all of that information back, we've got to set it to marketing to put together the best marketing package because we only get one chance at your first listing. This is the part that we don't want to rush and just throw your house on the market because that you'll end up paying for later. Your first 7 to 10 days on the market is everything. And you want your home to hit the multiple listing service being a 10 out of 10. Now, if you're serious about selling and you would like to work together, the first step to working with me is super simple. Just fill out the quick questionnaire in the link below. This helps me understand your goals and your timelines, so either I can personally help you or match you to a professional agent in your market. To give the best service possible, I only work with a handful of clients at a time. So this step makes sure that we're a great fit and sets you up for success because that is what you deserve. So let's talk about the most annoying part for you, and that is the showings. Doing this for so long, I know that no-shows happen, drive-bys happen, and yes, I know that you scrubbed every inch of that house for the showing and you got all the family and all the animals out and nobody showed up. And I understand how frustrating that is, and it is rude. I agree with you, it is 100% rude. Here's how you protect your sanity. I always recommend that you get proof of funds or a lender letter for the purchase price of your home before you allow a showing. And I have heard it all. I have heard multimillionaires say, well, I'm worth this much money. They should just go ahead and let me see it. But the truth is, you don't know them. I don't know them. Your agent may not even know them. We need to see on paper that you are actually qualified to buy this house before we are going to take the time to pack up the entire family and scrub every inch of that house. house. And if they don't want to do it, it just tells me, I just don't think you're that serious, because serious buyers get their act together and they get the letter and they get the proof of funds and they don't have a problem showing it to you. Next, your agent should be screening for non-negotiables. One time I listed a 2-story home, but the primary was on the ground floor and all 4 other bedrooms were on the 2nd floor. There were no bedrooms, no office on that ground floor. So I knew this was going to be a challenge for anybody who wanted family or friends to come over, and they were going to stay if they had any kind of mobility issues, because there was no place for them to be on the 1st floor. So every time somebody wanted to schedule a showing, I called the other agent and I said, hey, I just want to make sure you understand there's only 1 bedroom on the ground floor, and that is the primary suite. So if your buyer has any kind of mobility issues, or they want an office on the ground floor, or they want the kids to be on the ground floor, or a family member, that's not going to happen. Not in this house, and there's no way to remodel this house to make that happen. So many people said, wow, I didn't even know that. You know what? That's going to be a no-go for my buyers, so no. In another situation, the house that I had listed had a very, very tiny backyard. I mean, it was super, super tiny. And on top of that, they covered most of it with a deck. I mean, it was gorgeous, but it was not a large backyard, and it really wasn't going to be accommodating for somebody who had dogs that wanted a lot of outdoor space. So I made sure that anybody who was scheduling a showing, I called them up and I said, listen, I just want to make sure that you understand from the photos, this is a tiny backyard. So if your buyers have a lot of equipment, whether it's workout equipment, playground equipment, or they have animals they want to keep outside, we're working with a tiny little yard. Probably not going to work out. Those are the kind of non-negotiables I'm talking about, because once you know that they're not going to meet what the buyers are looking for, it saves your time, it saves their time, and again, you're not scrubbing every inch of that house. Next, I make sure that the agent has asked the buyers to watch the video. Remember that video I told you that I have done ahead of time, that we do a video of the house and do a tour of it along with a floor plan? I make sure I send it to them again and just say, hey, just make sure that they watch the video and they see the floor plan and that they're comfortable with what they're seeing. So this isn't going to eliminate the no-shows or the drive-bys, but it is seriously going to cut down the number of people that come through the house. It's better to have a smaller number of people come through the house that are truly interested in the home than having 100 people come through the house and go, oh, I didn't know it was 2-story. Like, you didn't see the photo online that showed it was 2-story? So having your agent make sure they negotiate the non-negotiables out and they ask for proof of funds, it's going to save you a lot of time. Next, you know you're going to get nitpicked. I know, it's not fun. They are going to comment on your paint, your wallpaper, your carpet, every design choice that you have ever made. They are going to have something to say about it, and it's not always fun. I mean, it's like really never fun. Now at that point, I want you to take a deep breath and I want you to not take it personally. What we want to look for is patterns in the feedback. We're looking for things you can change versus things you can't change. So for example, if they say, oh, I didn't know the house was on a dirt road, you can't change that. So don't take that personally, just move on. But other things that we look for are things you do have control over. It could be things like, there is a strong pet smell in this house. That you can work with. Or maybe they say the house is too dark. That you can work with too. Remember, change out those light bulbs, make sure that they're all one type of light bulb, and make sure all the lights are on before the showing, and open up all the curtains and blinds. Something else you can work with is if they say, well, it kind of feels small. That could just be code for there's a little bit of clutter that you can remove so it could feel more spacious. So if it's one random comment or it's something beyond what you can take care of, then just ignore it. But if you're seeing a pattern in the comments, that is the time to talk to your real estate agent and start making changes. Now here comes the fun part, the inspections. We all love this part, don't we? Buyers can order any inspection that they are willing to pay for. Some you may have heard of, some you might not have. You normally see the general inspection, maybe a roof, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. You probably know of the wood destroying organism. Then there is also the foundation inspection. And for some people, if it's a large tract of land, they might even do what we call a feasibility feasibility study. And when you get the report back, you're going to see this long, detailed report, but understand it is literally the inspector's job to find things wrong, and no house is perfect. Not your house, not the new house. No house is perfect. So a long inspection report, don't worry. It doesn't mean that your house is falling apart. The inspector was just very thorough. Like I said, literally what they're paid to do. If you want to get ahead of it and shorten that repair list, go ahead and get a pre-inspection before you list your home. Fix what matters ahead of time. It's usually going to be the very, very small details, and then plan accordingly for the large stuff. Now, the large stuff could be like the roof, the HVAC, the electric, and the plumbing. I will tell you that my sellers that do this end up sleeping better at night because there are no surprises. And here is a smart seller move. Instead of doing repairs, I always recommend to give credit at closing. Credits keep you in control. They avoid arguments just before closing. Arguments like, oh, they didn't do the job right, or I didn't like who you hired. And it saves time, because sometimes when you go to do a repair, then you have to add weeks onto the closing to get the repair done. Either they may not have a part or they're just busy. So if on the inspection report you see that major items are not working, yes, you are probably going to need to fix those. But if it's small cosmetic stuff, no, the buyer can take care of that. This is going to be where your experienced real estate agent, who is an excellent negotiator, is going to earn their keep. Now, I want you to remember, this is not the 2022 market where homes are just flying off the listings. Now, we are not in that crazy 2022 market anymore. Expect uneven showings. What do I mean by that? I mean that like one week you could have 3 or 4 showings in that week, and then you'll go 2 weeks with maybe 1 showing, and then suddenly you'll have another week with a lot of showings, and then all of a sudden you go another 2 or 3 weeks with maybe 1 showing, possibly no showings, which is going to add to longer days on market. In many areas, it is not uncommon to see homes sitting on the market 6 months, even a year or longer. You want to price to the current market. What I always recommend doing, and I do for my clients, is we look at the market every 2 weeks to see what is happening, and then we adjust accordingly. Your agent should know exactly what's happening in your neighborhood and what the average days on market are. So here's another headache: the furniture. Most finance deals will not accept furniture in the contract. That means if you're throwing in the TV, the hot tub, the swing set, the dining room table, it's not going in the contract. You will need to handle that outside of closing on a separate agreement. And honestly, you don't want that in there anyway. Listen, you don't want it in the contract anyway, because you don't want your entire contract to blow up over a piece of furniture. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say you decide to leave, no value, you decide to leave the couch and a dining room table. The buyers are very, very happy of it. You even write it into the contract and say, we're leaving the couch and the dining room table. They have no value. But what ends up happening during the final walkthrough is the buyer comes in and they go,
hey, that couch is dirtier than what I remember it to be.
and you say, oh, no, it's exactly what you saw, and it doesn't matter because it has no value in there. And they go, well, you know what? I really liked that couch a lot, and now that it's not looking the way I thought it was going to look, even though it has no value, I'm really not sure that I want to go forward. So you do not want to tie your contract to furniture. You want that to be an entirely separate agreement that you and the buyer agree on outside of closing. You negotiate and pay for and write your paperwork. Just don't put it on the contract. Now, I know you are probably saying, well, Tammy, what about those second homes, those vacation homes, or those long-term rentals where they come fully furnished? Yes, I do understand that. That is a different market, and that is not what we're covering in this video. But if you really, really want to know about those, I will make a separate video. Just let me know in the comments below, and I'll be happy to make it for you. But that's not what we're covering here today. So back to the furniture. Now let's be realistic. Honestly, the buyers don't want your stuff. What I normally see most of the time are the buyers saying, well, make sure they take everything. Like when we come through the walkthrough, we do not want to see their furniture. We don't want their couch. We don't want their dining room table. No, we don't want their dresser. We want to make sure it is all gone. And the ones that do want your stuff, they don't want to pay for it. They want it for free. This next one definitely causes a lot of anxiety, and that is contingencies. With contingencies, you are going to be waiting. You're going to be waiting on the inspection report, the bank appraisal, the lender approval, the survey, title commitment, you name it, there's a contingency for it. And they all take time. And guess what? That green light comes, that clear to close comes usually just the day before closing. So how do you keep your sanity? I recommend that you get a timeline. I call mine a critical date. And at the time of contract, I give it to all parties so that we make sure that we are on exactly the same page and there are going to be no surprises. This keeps my clients informed every step of the way on the deadlines that they need to hit and also the deadlines that the buyer needs to hit so that we make sure that we are all still going forward. Next, I believe that you should have 2 check-ins each week. One on Tuesday, because let's just be honest, Monday's crazy and everybody's just trying to get it cleaned up from the weekend. And then the other one is on Friday, so that you know what is happening, what is needed, and how we are going forward. And your listing agent should also be keeping up with the lender updates. I know it may sound a little bit crazy, like why is your listing agent keeping up with the lender updates? To make sure that the buyer's loan is going through. I drive the lenders crazy and I'm okay with that because I will call and just say, hey, how's it going? And I understand that the lender can't tell me very much, but they can tell me we're moving forward, or they can tell me that we're waiting on a document. And they can't tell me what the document is, but I'd be like, okay, so we're waiting on something. So maybe I should call the buyer's agent and just see what's going on, because there shouldn't be any surprises. And I also do this with title. We want to make sure that we've got title commitment, that the survey is okay, that we have no liens or judgments that are popping up, that nobody's coming and raising their hand saying, I might own a piece of that house. We don't want that. Now we're going to move to a hot topic. And I know that is stressful for you as well as many other sellers, and that is the compensation. Now I'm going to tell you how I do it. That does not mean that is how everybody does it, and that does not mean that's okay with every state. You need to check with your agent and your state. Now, what I recommend is you, the seller, you negotiate the compensation with your listing agent. Whatever that is, you guys agree to it. Then you decide if you want to offer compensation to the buyer's agent. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but that is 100% your decision. Many of the sellers that I work with elect not to offer compensation. So they're not waving a flag and saying right up front, I'm going to go ahead and give you X amount of money. They just don't do that. They wait to see the offer, and then based on the offer is when they negotiate the compensation for the buyer's agent. Now, please remember, this is your choice. You get to decide if you want to offer anything up front and how much you want to offer, or if you want to wait to see the offer and then negotiate it. Whatever you want to do is going to be absolutely fine. And remember, it is your call. I also want to remind you to be flexible. Yes, the strategy is to sell your house, but it's also to protect your bottom line. So yes, when you are selling your house, there are many things that you didn't plan for, and there are some really ugly truths. But now that you know what to expect, you can avoid the headaches. Hopefully you'll be able to keep more of your equity and actually enjoy the process. And of course, if you're in Florida and you want my team's help, the consult is free. Here's how it works. Before we get started, I need you to complete a quick questionnaire using the link below. This is how I can give you personalized help. Or if you're not in Florida, I can connect you with a trusted professional who fits your needs in your town. This way, there is no guessing, there is no wasted time. We just have a clear path forward. So go ahead, click the link below, fill it out, and let's get you moving in the right direction. Let's make selling your home a little less painful. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.